Then we're heading to the workshop and cover some tips and resources for everyone. And lastly, we'll have opportunity for you guys to grab food and go up to talk to them if you need to have any more questions. So, give me 1 second. So here are our speakers. So first up is Ripage. He's a product designer over at Paycom. And we have Sanjana, who is an associate product designer at Paycom. And they'll go ahead and quickly introduce themselves and talk about their experience. And yeah, I'll pass the mic over to you if you want to quickly introduce yourself.
All right, is that good? All right, hey everyone, my name is Rutvij. I'm from India. I did my master's recently in HCI. I'm from UMD. I've worked as a product designer since 2019. I was a 3D designer before that. And I joined Paycom just about a month ago, so still kind of new, but happy to be here.
Hey everyone, I just graduated UTD like 6 months ago, so it's really nice to be back here. I was a psychology major and I took some class in design and I was very active with the US scope too, so it's nice to see everyone back here. And yeah, I'm an associate product designer at Figma and I'm excited to help you all get started with Figma. Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Is it? Okay, cool.
Okay, so there's a lot of stuff on the Figma's YouTube channel. So first I want to tell you guys that that is your biggest resource for learning everything about Figma, but you guys are here for a reason, so we are going to walk you through all those steps to getting started. But we'll share this file in the end of the workshop, and actually we're going to send it to you guys now too. So is it possible to send it on Discord and tell them to make a copy? Yeah. Okay. So we'll send this file to you guys. How do you share? Do you have Discord?
It's on there? Yeah, you can send a copy, but like this, so they can
Yeah.
So we're going to post it in general for everyone to use.
Okay, perfect. So if you guys can just, let's not work on this file directly because we've just set things up. So go ahead and, okay, we're back. All right, so click on this arrow right here and click duplicate to your drafts so that you guys can work off the Figma as we present. Give you guys a second to do that. And if you have questions, there's officers right here, so just raise your hand and someone will come over to help you. Are we good? So this is what if this is your first time opening Figma, this is what your homepage should look like. So if you've copied it into your drafts, it should be in your drafts.
You guys need help with opening Figma?
Are we good with the duplicating? Couple more? Okay, I'll give it like 2 more minutes. Raise your hand if you're ready. Okay,
Raise your hand if you need help. Yes, duplicate the file. Yes. Are y'all good over here? Need any help?
Then everybody can set up. How many people have the file duplicated now? Duplicated, open. Just raise your hand so we get an idea of like how much time it's gonna take. Okay, that's fine. Take your time and just get it open and it's definitely faster. Thanks.
Okay, last call. If you need help, if you need help, raise your hand. Oh, okay. Well, good. Cool. If you still need help, definitely call out an officer so they'll be there to help you. Alright, so, okay, so back to this stuff. So I've linked right here. So this is my presentation for today. And on the right here, you have design challenge specific resources for those of y'all participating in the design challenge. And on the right here, this is probably like a lifetime of resources for you. When you go into UX and when you get more into product design, we have like a bunch of videos and then design articles and every single Figma quick tip tutorial right here. Stuff if you're interested in coding, this is for you because you can learn how to design and match that with coding and things like that. Accessibility resources and a lot of stuff here. So first of all, just to give you guys an overview of what you see here. Whoa. Okay. Okay, just to give you guys an overview of what you see here. On this left side, this is your layers panel. So anything that you have on here is just gonna show up here. So this is your tools, your basic tools that you can use to kind of move things and make assets, like make a frame, make a rectangle, draw things, text, etc. That's up top here. And on the left, every single thing that you add onto it and you design is gonna stack up. So that'll show up in your layers panel. And on the right, these are like the design specific properties. So say that, you want to check the color, the fill, the stroke, the size of everything, position, and there's a bunch of other cool tools here that we'll walk you through. So back to the presentation. So for those of you guys that have some experience with Figma or some experience with UX in general, I think you guys will find this part a bit more interesting, but if you're beginners, still follow along. So this is this is your stages for your design challenge, okay? So between the lo-fi wireframe stage and the hi-fi stage comes the design system. So how many of you guys know what a design system is? Okay. So a design system is basically the look and feel of your product, and that includes a lot of different things like branding, typography, colors, and it also includes the specific components you use when you're designing. So how do you actually design a design system? There's this process called atomic design, and we sent the link of an article in the UX Club social media, so if you read this article, that's great. If not, here's a quick overview. So your design system is comprised of all these different elements, right? So the first element is atoms, and that's your basic things. Things like font, animation, colors, and buttons. And those build up to make actual elements that you use. So say that you're filling out a form and you have that little text field, and it has all the different elements. It has an input, it has a text, so that makes your molecules. Now, organisms are things more that apply like globally to the product, like every product needs to have navigation. So that's an organism, it's a bigger structure with all these atoms and molecules put together. And then templates. So this kind of stuff gets into the components, and I'm gonna break down Spotify's design system because we're all obsessed with Spotify's design system, and I think it does a really great job. So just to kind of walk through what atomic design actually means, say that you take this text frame, you take your green circle, you take your play icon, and there's different ways to arrange all of these different elements to come up with this final design. So these are your atoms, and this becomes a component. Now, does anyone have any questions on that so far, atomic design? That was a very, very high-level overview, and if you want to read more into it, feel free to do so with the resources. Okay. Cool. So now let me dive into some of the terms that the design industry talks about a lot, and there's a lot of design terms here, and people are in different agreements about what each of these mean, but there's a couple things that everyone agrees on, and that's these three things. So a pattern. Anytime you have a product and there's a common occurrence or a common problem that the users see in that product, that is called a pattern. Now I'm going to walk through these examples with Spotify. So look at Spotify here. One of the main elements that they focus on is that they need their controls to be very visible and very easily accessible. So if your pattern is that you're always going to have your controls easily accessible, that is something that you use to define how every one of your elements in your design system is laid out. So for example, there's many ways we can solve this problem of making that play button highly visible and accessible. This is one way. You can lay out an image of the song, you can have a text, and you can have the play button here, or you can have the play button here. These are all different templates. So a template is something, it's reusable UI that you can use in different versions, and they still solve the pattern or the problem that you're trying to address. So a template, again, is a solution, and a pattern is something that you see often in your product. Now, if you look at this right here, and let's go into the Spotify's design system. So this is Spotify's this is like an inspiration of Spotify's design system. And it has color, typography, buttons, and these are the elements that we talked about, like the molecules. And look, they have this card as a component. Now, a component is two things. One, it's a certain composition that you all agreed on that you're going to use throughout your design system, but in a Figma sense, it's also something that makes designing much faster and much easier. So when you decide when you're going to make something a component, if it comes in your design system more than once, if it's something that your design team has agreed that, okay, this is the template we want to stick with, then you can make that template a component. So that's how we create components. And if you look here, this is the snapshot of the layers panel that actually has all the components laid out. So you have a state for the component. You have the text and the different parts of it that make this component. So these are subcomponents that make this thing a component. So does all of this make sense? Any questions? And I just kind of ran through it. No questions? Okay. Okay, now we'll do the fun part, which is the actual demo. So if you guys hop on to this page, so all of you guys should receive these instructional sheets that have everything that we're going to talk about step by step. So if you go home from this workshop and you're like, I have no idea what I just did here, this resource is your best friend, so you can refer to this. And we have some pictures here, but hopefully the rest of it is pretty self-explanatory. So now we're going to actually design the screen. So this is the final screen that we're going to design together, and we're also going to prototype it so that it opens up like this. So we're going to have this as our final screen, and you click on this action, and then it'll open up this other screen. That's it. So pretty simple, pretty one-on-one exercise for today. So first I'll start off with, do you want to talk about the process?
Alright, does anybody have any questions? Like, feel free to raise your hand, we can do a couple questions before we move on. So if anybody has any, don't feel shy.
I have a quick question.
What page did we just move to?
Oh, we went, okay, so by default, I'm pretty sure Figma, can you guys hear me better?
Yeah.
Okay, by default, I think Figma has this closed. So if you go to the layers panel, on the top right, you'll see it has like a drop down. Once you hit the drop down, it opens the pages. We're on the Sanjay Srutvij demo page. But yeah, so also in the top right, you see all these names. If you can click on this, I don't know what your account, is this your account?
Should be UX.
Okay, so UX UTD, if you guys can click on that, it spotlights my movement, so you'll follow me across the file. So like, let's say I click on Alejandro's cursor, sorry Alejandro, it tells me like where he is, right? So come to this page or just find the person thing and you can find me there. So real quick, what we're gonna go over is just these three sketches, and this was something I was making for this presentation. So there's post-it notes kind of covering what I'm going to talk on the side. So if you guys, again, go back, don't remember, there's post-it notes for pointers. I like to start with sketches normally because they kind of give you a very quick design of what it's going to look like. It also limits some variables. When you're in Figma, there's a lot of things to worry about: the spacing, the frame size, how other components stack on each other. When you're sketching it, it's pretty much up to you. You could choose you just draw a random screen size. You're not drawing the 1020p screen size by exact measurements, right? So you kind of get a feel for what's going to be priority on that screen. You don't have to worry about spacing. You don't have to worry about any of the layout and stuff. You're just kind of drawing it. If you mess up, you continue, right? So as you can see, even on the sketch itself, I kind of have a lot of question marks because I see space. So the first thing I do is I just draw the main screen. I kind of lay out the navigation, so the title and the home thing that you guys see here. That's kind of laid out, and then I look at what's the information that needs to be provided. So when we were making this, we were talking about just kind of having a dashboard or something for someone to just quickly look at and get some information, right? So I said, okay, why don't we do a section title here where they can see deadlines, and we kind of chose UTD students. So I said, okay, let's do something for students. So you can look at that and you can see okay, it could be deadlines, it could be events, it could be classes. So you have this dashboard panel as the very first thing that people can get quick information from. After that, you go down, and again, this could be overlapping information. So just because it's in the first list doesn't mean it can't be in the second one. It could show up there, right? So the second one is just cards that have courses, events, assignments, and then I have a navigation bar. So it says home's active, this is inactive. And as it says here, right? Limits variables, gives me a quick view of what's going to be on the screen, and lets me decide priority. From there, when I move on to my mid-fidelity, now as you can see in Figma, I chose a frame size, I have my elements in there, they're spaced out. Yet not flushed out yet because it just says title, has a card there, it should have more information, sure, but as I move to high fidelity, that'll show up, right? So in mid-fidelity, I'm just looking at spacing and the grid implementation, which is something we'll go over in a second. And you can also look at interaction design. So this small thing here just tells you that, okay, this can be scrollable. That lets you kind of look at the screen and decide how much movement is going on the screen, which elements are there. Is there too much movement on the screen? Are there too many elements cutting off? Are we overwhelming the user with how many things are on the screen, right? And then the last one is area management, which kind of plays into the first two. So again, you're just taking all the information and you're making sure that you're not making it overwhelming for a user, but you're presenting the right information that you need to show there. And this looks like a big jump, I know, because it's kind of hard to show you how mid-fidelity and high fidelity with specific screens. So as we do the process, you'll see it. But in high fidelity, what I'm looking at is the finished product. So let's say Spotify. A product designer at Spotify, when they show their high fidelity, it should show Spotify's brand. It should have their design system. It should be consistent with what their interactions are and how they, like the philosophy that they follow. The second part is you can prototype this, and the benefit of prototyping is you can test it. So it could be internal, external, doesn't matter. You could test the prototype, and now you know if your solution actually works. In product design, something that everybody right now is also emphasizing is being able to test your solution and validate it. Because you can design something with a certain solution in mind and go, okay, you know what, I know that the user's gonna come here and look at this and know that that's their item, but when you test it, like 3 out of 5 users probably won't do it, and then you're gonna go back to it. So high fidelity, it looks pretty, it's really nice, and you're using it to validate it, but you've gotta put in the like groundwork in your low fidelity and mid fidelity.
All right, cool. Questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
So what's the difference between like the wireframes and the prototype?
As I said, yeah, so you're kind of looking at something that's more polished, more fleshed out. If you're using your design system, then you're gonna have something that should be consistent with your design system and your brand. If you're working on like a personal project where you're creating something from scratch, there you're looking at exploring different ways to provide the same information, right? So this being like a scrollable calendar thing versus it just being like a card that swipes through.
So the part that is grayed out that you haven't put a design in it, that's a wireframe, and then you move on to a prototype, is that what you're saying?
No, so that's the mid fidelity wireframe. That kind of just gives me an idea of the space I have. But all of these rectangles do have to go to elements and components, right? So they have to have, yeah. So like that gray rectangle translates to this little thing over
Okay,
here.
so inside your wireframe,
Mhm.
you have these components,
Yeah.
but I mean, I'm still confused of
Yeah.
like, okay, you're moving from your component and then that is your wireframe, right there? But what is a prototype and wireframe? What make them different?
Well, okay, so I think the terminology that's a little confusing is this would be a mid fidelity wireframe, and that's a high fidelity wireframe.
Oh, okay, got
Yeah,
you.
and then a prototype is basically a complete user flow.
Oh,
So
okay.
let's say you use Gmail, how do you log in, right? So what's the flow for that? You open the app, you click on login, you type your username and password and authenticate and you're in.
Oh,
That would be a user flow. So that's what a prototype would be.
Oh,
We have a very small prototype here.
how do you move from like just the wireframe to a prototype?
We'll go over that in a second, but Figma has a tool for prototyping. So you basically would have a collection of all your screens and you kind of link all of them together saying like, okay, if the user has done this action, it goes to this screen. If they do this action, it goes to that screen.
Oh,
And the good thing is you're not putting time into development for it anymore. It's easy to make a prototype on Figma, so you're not putting time and other resources into making a prototype or coding a prototype. You can quickly do something that's just like, okay, click on this, go there, and you can test it.
oh,
So it gives you quick information without putting resources into it. And we'll go over prototyping. I think that'll help you clear it up a little bit. But if it doesn't, feel free to ask me again. Yeah.
Yeah, so I had a question in like terms of like the order in which you do these things. So like, is it always the case that you'll start from sketch, then go into mid, fi, and then high fi, or could you like skip some steps, or could you like go straight to like the high fidelity?
That's a good question. That's because I'm gonna say that to the industry again. So in the industry, what's gonna happen, right? Like your Google, your Netflix, your Spotify, like we saw, they have a design system. So let's say you go work at Spotify and they tell you, hey, we need a screen where someone can see your card and like look at and make a playlist. Sorry, I'm struggling with the navigation there. They won't ask you to make it from scratch because what you make might be completely different from what Spotify has. Your interactions, the way you expect the user to use it would be completely different from what Spotify currently has. And so for the sake of consistency, they would expect you to use their design system. So that's another like big point about the design system is its consistency. Imagine if you went to Netflix or Instagram and every page had a different interaction and a different layout. How confusing would it be for you to come back to the previous page or just be consistent throughout the app, right? That's why. So the sketch, mid fidelity, high fidelity, it's a great process to kind of learn and follow as you guys go through the UX club and go through a design challenge. In the industry, you'll still end up using some of that. It's more to kind of understand, hey, like, how is this information laid out? What am I using for it? I can't get into specifics, but that's the best way I can explain it is you're using it to kind of prioritize information, look at what works, before spending the time to actually make a high fidelity wireframe.
No.
Yeah.
If I can add to that just a little, I think, so when I was in college, I used to really think that drawing my wireframes and doing that all at work To be honest with you, I don't do much of that at work since, as Rosa mentioned, we have that design system and we just kind of borrow elements from it and we make the layout. So I think practicing mid fidelity is really good because you'll understand what's good layout and what's good things like that. But when you're actually building things, people usually jump straight into like mid-fi and then go into lo-fi just to plan a layout and you build a layout with your design library.
So this is called base gallery. You guys can just Google, like you saw me Google it. I just did base by Uber Figma file. And it's a Figma file by Uber. I think it's like 4 years ago, but they made some updates recently. And you'll see how huge a design system can be over here. So it's just 2 pages, but the second page is every component used across Uber. So if you guys want, pull up the Uber app, go onto this Figma file later, and just look at how many elements you use from the app that are on this design system and how they're broken down, right? So I can get into it, but as you see, like there's text fields for like different states. There is cards that you would normally see, file drop, just like even a small banner that you would see at the top of the app. So look it up. The link was supposed to be on the Figma file. I don't think it's working the way we put it down. Let me just put it again. All right, it's gonna be somewhere on this file. It's a treasure. Just make sure you move it later, sorry. Alright, I'm gonna let Sanjana move over.
Okie dokes. So are you guys ready to actually start making some screens? Yeah. Okay. Alright, so just to make this process a little bit faster and easier, we have these things that you can just drag and drop into the screen, but we're going to go step by step and actually build out this whole screen. So right now, I want you guys to, and again, everything I'm saying is on the sheet, so if you miss out, just refer to it or raise your hand by all means. So click on this frame, or you can just hit F on your keyboard when you're not selecting anything. So we're gonna click here, and you have different screen sizes that you can pick from. I'm just going to pick iPhone 13. So there, I have my iPhone 13. I'm just gonna drag it into this frame. Just change the color of this.
If you can't hear, just let me know and I'll move the back.
Okay, we are going to go dark mode so you guys can see. Alright, so here is our frame. This is our frame. I know it's a different size than this, but we're just gonna build off of this, okay? Okay.
That's the fun problem.
Okay, so first we have, does everyone have their frame ready? Their phone screen?
Yep.
Okay, question?
So I'm a little bit lost.
Yeah.
How do you get there?
Okay, I'll do it again, no worries. Alright, so go over here. This is your frames. So click on this drop down and select frame.
Can I make a quick announcement?
Yeah.
Did everyone duplicate the file? Yes. Raise your hand if you did not duplicate the file. Yeah. So to work on that, I would suggest you duplicate the file. And the officers can walk around and help you guys if you didn't. Maybe that's why you're not able to do it.
Alright, so the permissions of the file are set such that if you use that link itself, it's view only, so you're able to make any changes. Do the drop down thing and duplicate it so you get it in your drafts and you have full control over it.
If you don't see controls, you're probably in a view only version. Please duplicate it.
Does anyone else need help duplicating the file?
Are we good? Do you guys have your phone screen? Not yet? Okay. Do you guys want? Yeah, question. Yeah. Yeah, highly recommend that. So when you actually create your high five, before you even create your high five, because how do you know what colors, what style, what you want to do? So make just a simple design library. So we have one up here, the super simple. So that one. So all we have here is icons. You can put the icons from material design. Super easy. And you can decide what font you like, up to you. That's depending on your own branding and how you want your app to speak. And then you have colors and you have just your basic elements if you want to. These are just iPhone elements, so you can like plug them into your screen so you can do that. And anything that you want to make a component. Now, I talked about earlier what you should make a component, so just think about if it repeats in your product multiple times and if you're going to keep replicating it and it is something that sticks true to your branding, make it a component. And we're going to show you guys exactly how to make that component, so don't worry.
Good, I was gonna ask that.
Yeah, we got you.
Is everybody ready with the file duplicated?
Is every part is there any version dependencies of Android version or something like that for the UX design?
You saying Figma or design system?
In the Figma related to the mobile apps, like
Yeah.
if you use some interfaces in the mobile app,
Yeah.
so are there any dependencies from version to version with Figma or something like that?
So Figma itself has version control, yes, and your design system will evolve as you go. I don't know if that answers the question, but normally what I know is like brands will have an iOS like thing that they do, and then an Android thing. But that only applies for OS level like UI, because in app they have full control on what they can do, right? That's how Facebook on Android versus Facebook on iPhone looks the same. But how you share a photo, how you add a photo, like those interfaces, the OS level interfaces, they are unique to Android versus iPhone. Sorry, I keep saying iOS and Apple.
Yeah, that's because they take that from your Android's native, the way that, you know, their native design system is. Like even toggles, like iPhone toggle is like round, it's like, you know, and then Android toggles are completely different, so. Cool. Are we ready to get started? Okay, so I figured out which screen this is. So this is an iPhone 14 Plus. So again, just a quick review. We're gonna click on this frame, and on this right side, we're gonna click on iPhone 14 Plus. And how do you drag things? So I'm on a touchpad. I think you guys are too. So you're going to left click, and you're gonna take your finger and drag it across here. That help? Okay. Cool. So now you have your screen. Now let's reference this. The first thing we need is just a basic rectangle and text. So what you're going to do is make sure you're not selecting anything. So right now this screen is like I'm just going to unselect it. And you're just going to hit R. Hit R. And then you're going to have this rectangle tool pop up. So I'm just going to zoom in so you guys can see, but I'm just going to drag a rectangle till the end of the screen. And just let it sit there. We'll make adjustments to it. I know we're like 1 pixel behind, so I'll fix that. Do we have a rectangle? So I can show that once more. So you are going to make sure you're not selecting anything. Right now I'm selecting the rectangle. So click outside and just hit R, and you'll be able to make that rectangle. All right. Anyone needs help? No? Okay, we're gonna continue. So now in order to drag this into place, again, you're going to left click and just drag it right up. So, you know, we're good, we're set with our rectangle. And over here on the right, you can adjust the width and height of it just to make sure we create this exact frame. I'm gonna tell you guys the width and height so you can type it in. So let's just type in 428 for the width and 78 for the height. So I'm gonna do it with you guys. So I'm gonna click on this. I magically made it 428. I'm just gonna do this 78 for the height. Another quick friendly hack over here is you can decide the alignment of it right here. So you don't have to zoom in by pixel and try to move things. If you placed your things right, it will move on the frame accordingly. So right now, if this wasn't center aligned, so let me just misalign it, and I click on this, automatically it's center aligned to your frame. So this iPhone is a frame. So that's what you see here in your layers panel if you're following along. We have our iPhone, and inside that frame, we have a rectangle. Now another good thing that I should also get better at is naming your layers so that you can reference it, so that you don't have rectangle 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you know, just keeps going. So that's also another thing that we can try to do more. All right, so we have our rectangle, we have our phone screen, and then I just talked about alignment. These are just different ways you can align it. Now, again, we're gonna click outside of the iPhone, make sure you're not selecting any layer, and hit T on your keyboard. T as in text. Okay, so now we're making a text box. So again, we're just gonna drag it out like we dragged out the rectangle. I'm just gonna do it right here. And I'm going to type title. Okay, cool, title. Now, another alignment hack, so we're just going to align this. I'm just going to use this one, so it's in the middle of the, oh, oops. Okay, so here's what happened. So this alignment only works for the frame. Right now, I tried to center align it with the rectangle, but it ended up aligning it to the frame. So just a reminder that you can do that for shapes, you can only do that for frames. So I'm just gonna manually align it to the center. So does everyone have an iPhone with a rectangle and a title? Question? If more people need help, I can go over that again. Okay, so I'm going to continue because all I'm going to do is duplicate these throughout the process. So if you need a refresher, follow along again. So again, we're going to click out, we're going to press R, and we are going to make another rectangle. And the sizing for this, it's also mentioned on the paper, but the sizing for this is, you can just do 400 and 200. So the width is 400. Type that in, and the height is 200. And we have another rectangle. Now again, if I want to align it with this frame, I'm going to click on this, and boom, it's right in the center. We need to pause real quick. Okay, we're going to take a 1 minute, 2 minute pause. Yeah.
Could you explain to them the layers, how you can go front back? So that way, for example, the title is underneath the rectangle you did, and like how you pass up like the out frame, you can set out frame. So for example. Okay, so this is your big layer. So this is your iPhone layer. Now when I click on this layer, it shows me all the children. So every single thing that's inside the iPhone, you can see it right here. Now if I take this element and drag it out of the frame, it's no longer inside the iPhone layer. So sometimes when you're, this happens a lot when you're trying to make changes here and you don't know where your element is, it might not even be inside the iPhone layer. So just watch out for that. Here's another hack, how you can just drag it into your layers without manually, like right now I'm on black, so I don't know where my title is. I can just click on this and drag it into the iPhone. And now it's in the iPhone frame and I just have to like move it around, so there. So now we know that inside this layer, we have a title, we have a rectangle, and we have another rectangle. Question?
What were the dimensions for rectangle to rectangle?
Yeah.
400 by 200.
400 and 200. Yeah, the width is 400 and height is 200. Cool?
Yes.
Okay, so and then the same way we're going to make another title. So again, I'm lazy, I don't want to make another title, so I'm just going to Control-C, Control-V, this kit. So we're going to select this, Control-C, Control-V, and I'm just going to drag it below here. And I want it to be aligned with the card, so I'm just going to move it. So you see all those red lines? Figma is really helpful with helping you align things. So we have that title and our card, our rectangle aligned. And I want to add a little personality to my rectangle, so we're going around it. So if you guys look over here and you see this, it says the corner radius, just type in 4. Now if you're a little advanced and you already know how to do this, feel free to just play with the dimensions, changing things up, and if you have questions, you can raise your hand and ask us as well. Okay, so does everyone have the screen? We need a pause. Raise your hand if you want to pause. Oh, I think I know. We're all good? Okay. Now, here is. Okay. I'm just going to take both of these things and select them at the same time. So hold Shift, select your rectangle, and select the title. So I've selected both of these items together. Again, not selecting it. Select the rectangle, hold Shift, and select your title. So you have both of them selected. And we're just going to copy paste it one more time. And every time you paste on Figma, sometimes it pastes over what you already have. So it's there, you just can't see it. So I'm going to select both, and I'm going to drag it. Just going to drag that group down and place it right here. And I'm just going to call this section title, so I know.
Any questions? Yeah.
Is there a way, rather than putting it to your touch screen, just be the text?
It's a good question. So recently they changed, this is actually a new patch as well, is if you go into text, and this is getting a little advanced, so if you don't keep up with this one, it's okay, like, you can always go to the tutorials and do it. The text, this has type settings, and you can go here, and you can change the vertical trim to meet just the text box itself, and then over here you change it to that. So you see how it became really compact? Other than that, if you're talking about having it be like cut out for the text itself, you can flatten it and make it an SVG, which means it becomes vector, so you can no longer change the text, but it will give you like a really snug bit.
And I'm just going to change the styling of this. So if you scroll down over here, there's the font style. So you have multiple styles over here, and you have the font size. I'm just going to reduce this to like 16. So it's kind of smaller than our big title, and we have some visual hierarchy. Cool. So if you notice here, I have these smaller cards laid out here. So I'm just going to try to replicate that. So all I'm going to do is select that rectangle and just make it a little smaller. And if I'm happy with this size, I'm just going to copy paste it, scoot it over, copy paste it, and scoot it over. Now if you see what happened right there, I'm going to move it inside the frame. As long as it's inside the frame, it cuts out. But now it's officially outside the frame. Did you guys see that? I'll show it again. So now we're outside the frame. I can see the rectangle. If I put it inside, it cuts. So yeah, you can do that as well. I'm just gonna space.
Alright, it's very easy basically. So if you're dragging elements out, you can copy paste elements outside the frame very easily. You just kind of drag, and as soon as you cross over the frame, it should do it. If you're trying to move things inside the frame and you don't want it to leave the frame, even though like here I'm going to kick it out, if I hold spacebar, I can go as far outside the frame as I want to, and it won't leave the frame. Here, I'm holding spacebar, nothing happens. I leave spacebar, it comes out. So over here, click, move, and I'm holding spacebar the entire time to make sure the spacing is the same. And
Spacebar. So I can show that again. So you're selecting the rectangle, you're holding space, and you're selecting at the same time. So space and select, and you're just gonna drag it. So if you drag it like that, it's still within the frame. And again, here's another way you can check. This is your iPhone. This rectangle that's being selected is still inside the iPhone frame. So you can do that. And if you saw those little lines that kind of tell you the alignment, so you see that 20/20. That's how you can check alignment. There's other ways, advanced ways that we're gonna maybe get into a little bit later. So yeah. Okay, so we have that, and we have half our screen made. Yay. I am actually just gonna.
Yeah, like what's the advantage of that box you showed, like while moving toward outside the screen and showing inside the screen, that part doesn't appear completely.
It's just to show that this part is scrollable. So even though it's a mid fidelity, I'm trying to imagine how much real estate I can use in the phone. So if I keep the box inside the frame, but okay, technically there's another way to really do this if you want. You can just like, drag and reduce the size of the box. But then since we rounded our box, it's gonna be rounded, and I'm a little picky and I don't want to see the roundedness, so we're just going to make sure it's outside the frame, so it kind of shows that it's cut off and that its part is scrollable.
Also, it kind of helps you with the design system, right? Again, your card's gonna be the same. Even if the information on those cards is different, their size is the same. You're not changing the size of those cards just because it's cropped. So you're already planning for the fact that your design system and those elements are going to stay the same. And when you get into prototyping, you'll see you can actually scroll that when you play the prototype.
Cool. I am just gonna skip this layout for the sake of time, but I think you guys can kind of figure it out. So I'm just gonna copy this part and just put it in the bottom to just kind of fill space. So again, I'm selecting this, holding shift and selecting this. So I'm selecting both of them together. And here's another hack. If you just take it out like this and drag it, there's no, measurement. But if I hold shift, so again, you're holding shift, you're selecting this, and you're gonna keep holding shift and just move it down. It keeps your alignment. So, it makes it easier for you to move it down instead of that free form movement. So again, you hold this, click on this, hold shift and keep holding shift and just scroll it up, and you can also scroll it left and right. So it just stays within that line. Okay, does everyone's screen look like mine? Close? Yeah? Cool, congratulations, you've made one screen. We have a couple more to go, so let's just do this navigation bar. So I'm just going to steal this rectangle because I'm lazy, so I'm going to copy, paste, and it's right there. So I'm going to hold the mic. I'm going to hold shift and drag it down and just put it right there. So again, we're going to click on this, copy paste, and then just drag that thing all the way down. So now we have, again, consistency. We have the same size footer and then the same size header. We want to keep that space open. And we're just going to add placeholders for our navigation. So how we're going to do that is, again, we're going to hit R to make a rectangle. Just going to draw that out. And I know that this is navigation, so I'm going to make sure that it's a same size square, so 49 by 49 or whatever number you have, just make sure it's a square. And we're going to drag it. Actually, okay, here's the thing that I did. So I made this into a rectangle, and I'm trying to put text into it like this. But instead, I'm actually going to make it into a frame because I never use rectangles and when I'm designing things. I think it's just much easier to make a frame and give it color so that you can move things around the frame easily. So remember when I was talking in this part and I was trying to move this and align it? The reason it didn't align is because it's aligning to the actual frame itself. So right now, if I do this, it's moving down here. It's not aligning with the rectangle itself. But if I make things into a frame, you can use auto layout and you can align things and they're much better. So instead of making a rectangle, I'm actually just going to click on this and we're going to draw out a frame. Now frames are usually empty with no fill. And you can check that by looking here. There's no fill. So I'm going to click on this plus and now it's added a white fill. Just going to change this to like a black. And there you go. You have a little square that's a frame with a fill. Now again, we're gonna type, I'll pause. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay,
Wait,
cool.
can you repeat real quick?
Sorry?
Can you repeat? what you
Yeah.
said? Thank you.
No problem. So if you make shapes, if you make rectangles, you can't really align things with that. It's always going to jump to align with a frame. So we're going to make frames so that we can align text inside it much better. So how you do that is you click on this and you just click on the arrow, so you can click on frame or just type F on your keyboard, and we're going to draw a frame. Now frames start out without any fills, so I'm going to click on this plus and add a fill to it and click on this to change the color to black. I just clicked on the color picker, by the way, just to select it into black. And now we have a black frame. So that's it. Cool. And I want to make sure this is a square, so I'm just going to make sure the width and height are the same. So I'm going to set this to 50 as well. So the width and height are the same. That's my little square. Now we are going to select outside of this. Make sure you're not clicking anything. Type T so you can make another text frame. And I'm going to drag it inside the frame. Now look what happened here. We have the iPhone 14 layer here, and we made a frame inside that layer, and we're making text inside that frame. You see the layer hierarchy, how we can like go down into things we've made. So we have a text inside this frame, and I'm just going to type tab. It's too big, so I'm just gonna reduce the size right there. Cool. So I just clicked here to reduce the size. Cool. So I'm just going to type tab 1. And now look at this. I'm just going to misalign this text for fun, okay? Now I want to align this text to the center of this box. So we're going to select the frame. No, we're going to select the text inside. And we're going to hit this. Ta-da! Now you can actually align things inside the frame. So that's one way you can align things inside a frame, and auto layout becomes much more easier when you use frames instead of rectangles. Cool. Questions? Okay. Awesome. So, okay, we're going to copy paste this and just drag it over, and I'm going to do this part a little faster because I think we're...
Okay, I can talk through what she does. She deleted the number 1 and wrote number 2. No, I'm sorry. So all we're doing there is we're kind of laying out the bottom navigation. So a lot of the apps, you have 4 or 5 or 6 like different icons that can help you navigate. Same in Midfidelity, you're kind of deciding what are the main pages that you want on your product. So she's chosen 4, so she made 4 of them. She's now going to change the color on them so you can show active versus inactive. Again, you're trying to just flush out as much as you can in Midfidelity without kind of getting into actually designing it.
So I checked the spacing. So I just kind of move things around. This is very manual way of checking spacing. So I'm checking spacing, and then I'm going to. So now you saw, guys, everything is at 50. So I'm good there. Then I'm going to select everything. So holding Shift to select multiple things, and I'm just going to move it to the center until that red line pops up, and right there, and then another center. Ta-da! We're center aligned.
Those red lines that pop up whenever you move things, those are called guides, and you'll see them as you make more things in Figma. It also has kind of like, Figma has its like adaptive, it's not called adaptive learning or anything, but as you lay out a frame, it will kind of understand how big elements are, and so when you try to move things, it will try to snap it in alignment with those. So like the spacing that you saw, it's kind of using it based on the fact that 3 of them are grouped together, or 3 of them are to 20 pixels from each other, so it's going to say, okay, the next one, I'm going to put it 20 pixels and help you out.
Figma's nice. Okay. Cool. So again, for the sake of time, every component or every part that we've used in the screen is right here. So if you want to make the screen, you can just drag and drop these stuff and rearrange them. And again, you already know how to make them, so we are going to skip the screen, if that's okay. Cool? Okay, we have officially made Midfidelity screens now.
Did anybody have questions? Any questions? Midfidelity, moving around, frames. General rule of thumb is we spoke about components and design system. I'm quickly going to go over here. Everything in the design system is a frame. Oh my god. Okay, sorry. There you go. I'm just going to move with this thing, but everything in the design system is a frame, and that's because frames in Figma have the most amount of functionality possible. So wire frame, frame. Okay, your frames have auto layout, they have, and when you drag things, they're outside. If you group it and you move things, the group will expand with it, the frame will stay the same. So the good thing is if my frame is this big, which is the iPhone frame, if it was a group, first of all, you wouldn't see the title like that on top of it, you would see it here like set as a group. And then if I drag something like this outside, it wouldn't leave the frame. It would just be there and the group would expand. So you would end up having different screen sizes by a pixel or two if you didn't check your alignments. So the frames have the most amount of functionality that you can use in Figma itself, and they, more than most likely, you're going to use them the most. The only time I use groups is when I have some kind of vector image like that. So the lady in here is a vector image, and I had her grouped together and then I made her, like, copied her as a PNG. That's it. So try to use groups for not as many things, but mostly using frames to make everything. Alright, any questions about that? Yeah.
So you're saying it's better to, instead of like holding down shift and selecting the moving thing, better to just create a frame and add everything into it and then do it?
If you're making a component, yes. If you're making a card, instead of like making, so as we go over it, you'll kind of understand what I'm talking about. Let me go over here real quick, right? So, alright. So that's a card that we have on the frame, everybody saw it, right? And let me again do the same thing Sanjana did. Let me just make it darker so we can actually see everything against it. Okay. So as you can see here, right? That's a built out card. How is it made? It's got 3 different components to it. First off, we have the card banner. Again, if you can see the title above it, it's a frame. So when I click on it, you can see that it's a frame over here. I can open it and it has an image in a rectangle. That's the first part, that's the banner. The second part is called the card, I just named it card info. It's what has the card title and the details. Again, it's a frame called card info. You open it, you can see 3 things in here. You don't need a rectangle inside a frame for the background. I can just do this and say fill like Sanjana said, and the frame will have its own fill. You're kind of reducing having one more thing in there. And then the last thing is the card action or the CTA. And same thing, it's a frame, and the frame icon, as you can see between these two, is different, and that's because the CTA has auto layout. We'll get into that in a second. It just kind of makes sure that it keeps the spacing between things, and it helps you with responsive design, if that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. Alright, so can everybody hear me, or do we need to hold the mic? You guys can hear me in the back?
Outside voice?
Yeah, there you go. Alright, so the components used for the high fidelity here, right? So you can find them on the frame itself again. There's just, here it's just 3 things. It's going to be a quick one if I can figure out the navigations. I don't distract that, I'm sorry. Alright, so as I said, the first thing we had was a card banner. And how I made this one, I'm going to break it up, is if you hold Alt or Option on Mac, you can copy things without doing Control-C, Control-V. So I let it go. Okay. So if I press Alt and I go over a component or anything on Figma itself, you'll see how that little white arrow appears under the black arrow. It's now ready to duplicate it. I just drag it. And again, what Sanjana said, if I hold Shift, it aligns it with this thing. It won't let me free move it. I left Shift, it lets me move it freely. And but if I leave not holding Shift, it does this. In a wireframe, let's say I'm duplicating this to create like a carousel or something, I can hold Alt and Shift and I can go 20, 20, 20. And you see how that's quicker than Control-C and then aligning them all together? There is a faster way to do it, and we're going to go over it, but that's just one thing. So if you're copying, let's say you made a frame for someone's ordering something from Uber Eats. Once they hit buy or order, modal pops up asking for confirmation. You can just copy the frame over with your Shift and Alt like that, throw a scrim, throw a modal, you have a confirmation screen. Alright, so for this one, I'm going to start with just making a small rectangle again. We're going to have rectangle, make sure it's the same size. Another thing you guys can do is in the top left, you have a little arrow. If you click on it, you can go to View, and you can turn on rulers, or you can just do Shift R on all Macs. You can drag a ruler down, and as you can see, it's going to snap to that frame for me. I didn't, but right. It's going to snap to that frame stop line for me, And I'm gonna grab one more and put it to the bottom.
How
Right.
did you drag it down?
You just, you just kind of go over it, and you see how my cursor changes from a mouse to a thing, and you can bring it down. And you can click on it again to delete it. Okay, now I don't have to worry about my sizing anymore. I have a ruler that tells me what the size of the rectangle is. I'm gonna move the rectangle there, okay? I'm not gonna worry about the color right now because the design system has a color over here. Instead of going up there to grab it, all I'm gonna do is come here, click on the fill part, and like Sanjana said, you go to the color picker, and you just move over and you steal that color. And it has a color. Right? The next thing is this image. So the way I got it is it's one of your resources is something called Undraw. It's an open source illustration website, so you can go and search anything that you need and it'll give you kind of like a pretty nice illustration. We're gonna copy that. I just press Ctrl C there. And I come down here, press Ctrl V. Yeah, what's up?
Sorry, I had a question. How did you do the color picker again?
Yeah, give me 1 second.
I can show you the color picker real quick. So this is the rectangle. I click on this icon to access all the colors. And this little icon here is your color picker. See it? And now it just kind of selects everything. I go on here, it's showing me over there what color I'm selecting and changes the color right there.
Okay, thank you.
Going off of that, if you actually look at that here, you have options. So you have a plain color, which is just one color. If you hover over them, they'll have like a info pop over that tells you what it is. The other one's a gradient, so you can pick from 2 to, I don't know how many max is, but you could try that out. So you could do like a blue to orange gradient, red to pink, any kind of gradient. And you can, when it pops up a gradient, you can choose if it's like radial, linear. So you have all those options in there. You can also choose an image. So if you have an image downloaded, you can just link that image in there. And last year they added videos, so you can also throw videos in there now. Alright, so we have our card, we have our illustration, a little too big. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to right click on the rectangle and I'm going to say frame selection. Okay, then I'm going to come here, right click on this frame, and then I'm going to copy paste as, copy as PNG. I'm going to wait there for a sec so we can kind of just follow that.
One more time. Okay. So click on the frame and right click and do frame selection.
Yeah.
So once you've done that, go to your image and
Same thing. So if it's a frame, as I said, in the top left, it will always have a name. So you can click the name and select the frame. So all I did there is click on that title of the frame, and I'm going to right click, and it should say copy paste as, and I'm going to say copy as PNG. Okay? Once I have my PNG, I'm going to go back to my frame. I'm going to go back to my frame real quick. Okay, I have my frame here, I'm going to paste it in there. And as you can see right now, it's pretty big. If I go to my frame, one more thing I have here is clip content. So you know how we put that rectangle in a carousel and it kind of clipped off the frame rather than like showing it? If you click on clip content, it's going to clip anything that goes outside the frame. So you have your image there, but since it's clipping, it's going to be inside the frame. This helps me kind of just resize it to the size of the frame. Oh, quick tip. V is your normal move tool. If you click K, it goes to a scaling tool. The scaling tool maintains your aspect ratio. So who's used Photoshop or who's ever rescaled something holding shift? That's what it is. So if you click K, it's going to give you a scaling tool that keeps the aspect ratio. So in its images, I don't have to worry about the aspect ratio. As you see, it scales the whole thing down at the same time. We go from there. Alright, so I just gotta make sure that the image fits the frame that we made with the back, with the rectangle. Is that good for everybody?
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So when you copy PNG, is that because the photo is already PNG, or you can just do that and it will give you the PNG?
So that actually was a vector when I crafted, so that was an SVG.
Oh.
The reason I'm using a PNG is because one, I don't have to worry about the elements moving around. So if I go back into the card, it won't let me choose all these little elements. But if I come here, you can see it like highlights each element as I'm hovering over it. So it kind of eliminates that unnecessary interaction for me because I don't want to mess with that, right?
Okay. I was just wondering, like, if I were to have a regular photo and I wanna just copy it as PNG, would allow me to do that? Or would it take the background away?
Well, if
Because
you already
usually
have a-
PNG would like,
No.
all.
If it's a JPEG that you have, it won't edit the background out. It'll just copy it as a
Oh,
PNG.
okay, got it. Okay.
So it'll still leave the same photo.
Mhm.
For this one, what I'm doing is if you're using too many vectors,
Mhm.
it's too many elements, right? Because it's treating each of those things as like a one line, one shape. When I copy it as a PNG, I'm reducing that load on Figma because I'm not messing with the illustration, right? So as long as I'm not messing with it, I'm just going to copy it as a PNG. In the future, even if I do change it, all I do is get the new vector in, copy it as a PNG, and replace this one. Alright. The next one, the card title is just a frame that's made to fit the width of the first card. I'm going to drag it in here, left align, and as you can see over here, there's a new thing for the spacing between the two, and I'm going to set that to 0, so they're together. That's the right size. And then click content. Okay, so that's there, and then I have my CTA, which is in auto layout. All auto layout is a frame that has this feature called auto layout on it. Okay. So I'm going to create a frame, and for the sake of time, I'm just going to copy this text from here into this frame. Okay, so we have a frame. I'm going to quickly give it a fill. Again, I'm just copying the fill from the CTA that I already have. Agree. Okay. So right now we just have a frame with some text in there. Alright. So you see over here it says auto layout. I'm going to click auto layout, and as you see, the frame resized to have similar spacing all around. So without auto layout, it's like that. The moment I click auto layout, it goes down to being an even frame. Okay? Grab under that. And now when I move this, as you can see, the text moves with it. So remember I said responsive? That's what it makes it, right? It's a responsive CTA now. So if I'm creating for desktop, tablet, and iPhone, I have a CTA that has desktop, and there's a CTA that's iPhone. So auto layout just makes you make sure that like everything stays in frame. If it was a normal frame, what would happen is here, I'm going to take away auto layout. Normal frame, I move this, and you see how the CTA is now upside. So to put the text back in the middle, all I'm going to do is select this frame and click on auto layout. It's resizing it. If I need to change the size, I just change the size and the text goes through. Is that good for questions? Okay. Alright, so the last part is we have a CTA that's auto layout, and we're going to grab that. I'm going to come here, put that there. And now to make a card component, I'm just going to select that. Sorry. Okay, I'm going to select all three, and then I'm just going to say auto layout. And
You guys have questions?
that's your component, but yes.
So, how do we enable like the animations? Like if you want a different animation,
Animation now?
Oh, hover state? Or like states?
the kind of lady. If I have to have a different for my app, so how can I have that?
Oh, you mean the art?
Template, yeah, the art.
You can just get it from anywhere. Google, Undraw. So the resource I said was Undraw, UNDRAW, and it's an open source illustration website, so you can find a bunch there. That's where I get them.
It's like just copy and paste, right? On the
You can download it or you can copy paste the image.
oh,
And when you paste the image, if you paste it inside a frame, that image directly sizes to the size of the frame. So that's the first part that we just walked through.
oh.
Did everyone get to this? Just laying out your picture, your card title, and your action. Raise your hand if you're not there yet.
Yeah, if you have any questions with how we got there, ask.
So everyone has this. Okay.
Alright, we're going to quickly go over what a component would do. So I'm going to grab my frame, I'm going to come out here. Okay, does everybody have this in a frame? Their card looks like this. You have an auto layout on it that lets you just have it stacked. And so if I copy this, it does that.
I have a doubt.
Yeah, what's up?
Like in the rectangle, how to make a perfect curve there?
Sorry?
There's a curve there in the rectangle.
Oh, the green part?
No, above that. This one.
Here?
Yes, yes. There's a curve in the rectangle. How to get that?
Are you talking about the white one?
Yes, yes, right.
Oh, that's the image. That's just an image.
Image, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Everything inside this is just an image.
Okay.
Yeah.
For the sake of this demo, I'm just gonna quickly. Okay, you just have a card. That's normal component, and then if you have some banner in there, you could have a banner. Alright, from here when you click on a frame, you'll see like a new menu pop up here, and the first one is to create a component. So if you click on that, it makes it a master component, and now every time I use it, by copying it and pasting it, it's gonna be a child. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So this is your component, and when I Control C, Control V, copy paste some of this, I take this. You see this one right here? Okay, this triangle without any fill is called an instance. So this is one instance of your main component. Now, any change you make on the component reflects on the instance. Okay, so for example, I am going to take this and just drag it. You see that? The child changes too. So this is why we talked about design system earlier, is if you make a design system and make something into a component, you've made like 15 screens with this component. And you don't have to go in and change every single screen. You just change your component, it changes everything. But, sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you make one change to the parent component, and again, this is the icon for the, oh, it doesn't let me. This is the icon for the parent component, and this is the icon for the child. So any changes you make on the parent reflect on the child, except for things like text. Like if you change the text, oh, the text also changes.
It won't reflect back. So
Yeah.
right now it says card title, but if I'm using it, let's say like I say UTD Figma workshop, it won't change anything on the parent. It'll only be on the child.
Yeah, so if you want this one to be a unique case, so say I'm making 5 cards, okay? So I'm gonna take this, make another card, and I want the title of this one to be called UTD. Again, I'm making changes on the child. This change doesn't change the parent. So the child is called UTD. This child is called UNT. And this is your card title. Yeah, question.
So how do you do children and parent again? Sorry, is it just copy?
You just copy paste, yeah. You make, so
After it's a component.
yeah. So click on it and click over here to create a component. That's out of it. Okay. So when you click on that little triangle thing on top to make the component,
Alright, so you have a frame.
Yeah.
All you do is at the top it says like here, just click on that, it creates the component. If it's purple and has like 4 diamonds, it's a component.
Okay.
and if it's empty like this, it's an instance. That's your child. So the child doesn't change anything. It's just a copy of the parent. Cool? Question?
So the difference between component and this frame is that it's not dependent, right?
Yes, so a frame is not dependent at all. So this right now, okay, this is an instance, right? If any change I make to this, I don't want it to be in this. This I want to be a completely different thing. You can right click and select detach instance. This means this child is not a part of the parent anymore. So we're breaking it. So you detach it. This is a regular frame now. So any change I make on the parent will not be reflected on this. This is unique. This is your frame. But this child, if this was a child of this parent, this would change. Make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So that's how we got to the high fidelity, is you have these bunch of components that are together and they have a function or have a purpose basically. Hey, any Okay, so if you go up here again to the design system part, you'll see that you have, so the first 3 is what you would probably have early doors. You want to establish like your colors, your font, all of your stuff related to the brand. Icons kind of play a part in it because you want your icons to kind of have the same feel as your brand. A lot of people go really deep with icons and hire artists to make them and stuff. And then you have your status bar, which is pretty standard for all phones that you have. And your top nav bar itself kind of represents atomic design because you have a status bar that's a component above it, and then you have this with text and action and title. And then you have a bottom nav bar, which I have two states here. So I have an unselected and selected state. And when I put them together, I get a bottom navigation. Sorry. And then you have more components here. So you have 4 cards, again, all different purposes, and 1 dashboard card thing. I don't know what to call it, sorry. I used to call it like a calendar thing. All of those are components. You can feel free to grab them and recreate the screens that are below. I think the second screen isn't based on as many components, it's just more of image, section, text. So you're getting more into kind of like laying that out and using auto layout to make these tabs. Feel free to recreate those, that's really good practice. Another thing I would do is kind of go look at, like I said with the Uber one, right? Pull up a design system or just look up, like maybe you can look up Netflix design system, Airbnb design system, Google it. Even if you get images of them, just pull up the app and see how they use them, see how they interact. See how like they're dealing with like error states, hover, you can't hover on phone, but when you tap it, some stuff like that.
You can literally make a full hi-fi screen by taking Spotify's, like we laid out their design system here. So just take these components, make children out of them, and make whatever hi-fi design you want. But the actual part of like making these and like setting, we kind of talked about it in the lo-fi, like how you can give something a fill and a text and all that stuff. But there's a little bit more nitty-gritty that we might not have time for today because we want to intro prototyping too. So.
Yeah. Alright, so I'm going to quickly go over to the last part, which is prototyping, which is what we spoke about. So if you can see here, I have a frame. So I'm going to select this frame, and I prototyped it earlier today, so I know it's prototype. So if I go to prototype over here at the top right, you see where it says design and prototype. I was going to play it, but I'll show it to you guys first. So if you click on prototype, the interface changes. And now you see the little tentacles that tell you which screen is linked to what. From here, if I play it, we have a little screen with the phone. I can scroll this, and and then if I click on a 10 or click on the card, it opens up a new page which takes me to the event card, and I can see all of that stuff. Right. So this right now isn't set to scroll, so we'll kind of go over setting up the prototype and setting up that scrolling. I'm going to right click and interactions. Right. And so we have both our screens here, and none of them have the interaction anymore because I removed it. So I'm going to click on the card, and you see how it has this white node that does plus. I'm going to grab it and drag it to this screen. So now I'm telling it if someone clicks on that card, I want you to go to Hi-Fi 2. So you can read this. It says navigate to, this one's named Hi-Fi 1, this one's named Hi-Fi 2. It says navigate to Hi-Fi 2 instant. And if I click on instant, I can actually choose what kind of animation it has. And so I can say move in from the left, which normally I think it's iOS, so you click and it comes in from the left, right?
Did you guys, are you guys on the prototype? Did you guys get the plus symbol and everything? Anyone didn't get it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So also there was already a plus, right?
So when you select it, did you not see it on your side?
Yeah, there was already a plus, so I have like 2 pluses now.
Oh, so if you right click, you can say remove all interactions. That's because I had it done for the demo. If you right click like just on the canvas, it will say remove all interactions, or you can click on those tentacles and remove them. Alright. So is everybody here so far? The first screen is linked to the second one?
So we do have a single canvas for a prototype. So what if we want to make multiple canvas for a prototype? Like if you want to like see the workflow, different workflows. So how do we do it? Like we have a particular canvas, right?
By canvas, you mean this like white space?
Yeah, the white space.
Oh, that's just for the presentation. So you can grab it anywhere to Figma and prototype it.
Okay. So that canvas doesn't mean anything.
No, it's just for us to have like the flow of
Okay.
Yeah, so if you did like let's say you go crazy and you say I want to make the whole of Spotify as a prototype, you could have like a full page, like a whole like, you can create a new page here by clicking the plus, and it's going to give you an empty page, and you could have this full page with all the screens from Spotify, and you could protect them.
Oh.
Alright, so the first one was clicking into the card and then grabbing that white thing and clicking to the first screen. I'm going to go here, I'm going to click once and it's going to take you to the top navigation. I'm going to click one more time and take you to the second level. I'm going to go to the third level to select the icon, the back icon. And now you see again I get the plus. And now I'm going to take it back. Again, same thing, I just dragged it to the first screen. So all I'm saying is when I click on the card, open the first screen. When I click on back, go back to the first screen.
So just like aggressively keep clicking until you get to what you want.
You can also on the left side see frames. So you'll see when I kind of double click through that, you'll see I just kind of go deeper as I click. So you can also just open up the frames there and select what you need from there.
The frame, aggressive click 1, title, aggressive click 2, you get to the actual icon.
So I'll go over that again. So I have nothing selected right now. If I'm trying to select something inside this frame, like let's say I want to select tab 2, right? If I click once, it will select that. If I double click now, it will go to tab 2. And now I can say if I want this to go to something else, I can say that. And it's going to move in like that. And as you see, because I made a link, it understood that like, okay, this is flow 1. I can just click play here, and it's going to open it on the mobile screen size for me. And I can look at it. The scroll isn't set. We'll go back to that in a second. I can click on tab 2, it goes back. So very basic prototype. You just have two things that you're clicking, and you're telling Figma if this component sees a click, you go here. If this component sees a click, you go back.
So once we have detached the interaction, how can we enable turning like the arrows?
That's where you drag them to the screen.
Oh.
So you double click here and you select this thing. I'll go over it again here.
Oh.
Right click, remove interaction. Okay, so this is what you have, right? You have nothing, no tentacles. So I come here. I'm gonna select this card by double clicking on the card, and I have this little white circle. Right, another thing I'll quickly go over is inside this frame, hi-fi 1, if you look here, right, I have this frame 245, which is the frame of those cards. If I click on that frame, it opens up it changes the properties panel on the right side to say scroll behavior. And over here I can decide scroll with parent and horizontal. Scroll with parent just means that it scrolls with the parent, which is a weird way to put it. Or I can say fixed stay in place, which means it can't scroll. So if you have a carousel that says fixed stay in place, it won't scroll. That's why it's not scrolling. If you change it to scroll with parent, it's going to scroll with the mouse. If I come here, and I can drag it and scroll. But if I change this interaction,
Question?
How do we enable the position in the scroll behavior? I'm only seeing the overflow.
oh, you have to click on the frame itself.
Oh, okay.
So that entire thing is a frame. So we have this card, this card, this card is, you see that one big frame?
Yeah.
In order to make a scroll, it needs to be in a frame. That's why we recommended use frames. Don't use squares or rectangles.
Oh.
So if this is inside that frame, so this is is this the frame?
That's the frame.
So this is the frame, this one has the title and it has the whole card stuff, then you'll see that scroll thing.
Oh, yeah. And if I click on the other frame, which is right below it, I can again see it, but it recognizes that the frame is inside, that frame of cards is inside the main wireframe, so it's giving me an error saying, hey, you can't horizontal scroll it because there's nowhere to go.
Yeah.
I can see no scroll.
Means the items scroll only which are in the frame only, right? Usually.
Yeah, groups normally can't. Yeah, groups don't have scroll. You won't even be able to prototype groups. You can only drag prototype links for frames.
So if you're actually making this card together, so I'm gonna pull this outside, okay? So we have this entire card, we have 1 card, 2 cards, 3 cards, but notice that this frame ends right here. Do you see this line? So this, when you're first making it and you make everything a frame, you're gonna make it like this, right? So this frame now has every single card inside it, but let me select this. So inside the frame, we have 1 card, 2 cards, 3 cards, and I have this rectangle in place, which you don't need. But say that you want to make it scroll only to a certain, so you remember our iPhone has that fixed width. So I'm going to just grab this frame and reduce the size of it to here. So we're reducing the size of the frame so that when I take this in and put it inside this frame, it actually fits. So the scroll happens within this frame. So now if I reduce the size once again, and we do a scroll, so let's play this in. Let me show you. Actually, just one. It still works. Then? Okay. You just have to make sure that the frame is within the icon.
Yeah, all that comes down to is that the frame has to be inside your iPhone frame. Does that make sense? So if I go back here, let's say I change this size. Resize it. So now you can see how it's like overflowing. So it's not the frame is going past the phone. If I come back here.
Yeah, now it won't work.
So it works, but you see how it like keeps going back to where the start was? It's because it thinks that that's the whole frame. It keeps going back to the start. But if I change that to come here and just make it the size, you see I'm matching the size of the phone there? I come back here. Now it lets me scroll it properly.
You can actually sit in
So I can actually stay there. So I can have an interaction for each one of those cards. Rather than like having the user, but you can't really do it if it keeps going back. So that's why we're gonna make sure that that carousel that has like this big frame matches the size of the phone frame, and then you can have that scrolling setup.
Can we also have the continuous scrolling, like instead of till it stops at the last part, rather than stopping at the last part, can we have the continuous scrolling?
Yeah, that just depends on how many cards you throw in there. So if I keep going.
No, the repetition.
Oh, so come back to the start?
Yeah.
Oh no. Not for prototype, right?
You can make another card on this left side and scroll left and right. Is that what you're asking?
No. Like there are
You mean
three
go
cards.
from start to end and come back to start?
Yeah, again, continuously.
What if a scroll bar, like horizontal one and a vertical one, can you enable it?
You can do it. It's a little bit more complicated. It'll take a little bit more time. Look it up on YouTube. There's ways to do it.
Oh.
Yeah. Sorry, I can get into it, but it's gonna take another 20 minutes.
But usually like in prototypes, I don't really see the scroll bar. People just assume that you can scroll. Yeah, like right now, if you just, the same way we did horizontal, if you do a vertical scroll and you just like scroll, then yeah.
But you can do it. Right, any other questions? Was everybody able to make the prototype with the links? Alright, mess around with it. I know it's a little scary, it's a little like you're like in new space, but play around with it, watch a couple YouTube videos, try to make a couple wireframes. For now, like look at design systems, steal the components, try to make something with those. For your portfolio, or if you're going into product design, I recommend not doing that. Yeah, but for starters, yeah, just use other components, see how they work, analyze screens. So look at the apps that you use and try to understand what could be a component, how was that built, what's the interaction. Yeah.
Yeah, so just wanted to hear out from you since it's been a period of time, right? So we are not able, we are able to grasp it, but in order to like kind of deep dive, which all videos would you recommend from for the product from scratch to?
So Figma themselves have a YouTube channel, and so Sanjay actually made this for you guys. It's on the first page of the file. It's called Figma Quick Tips, and it's all the videos that would help you.
These quick tips are to add, maybe if you're missing on one single element, maybe it can help. I just want to ask where they build from scratch, so that once we build 2-3 products, so obviously we'll get that confidence.
Yeah, you could just YouTube making a wireframe in Figma or something. Watch a couple of those. There's not one that I have at the top of my head. Because the way I learned Figma, I kind of learned it on the job. We were transitioning from Sketch to Figma, so I kind of had to learn it on the job. But YouTube was pretty good. My boss was really helpful for me. But most of it for me was watching people make stuff and rewatch it, understand what they did, and just kind of mimic that.
Oh, sure, thank you.
That's it, guys. Any other questions?
Alright, everyone, before you guys head out, please be sure, I'll showing you guys our upcoming events that's coming up. So coming up, we have on November 1st, if you are a member, we're having a member social event called UX Bites. We're playing games, listening to music, have a good time, just to relax and have, end of semester, a lot of homework, So if you're a member, be sure to show up to that. After that, we have the banquet coming up. So if you did participate in the design challenge, that is our big event of the semester. It is a very good time. I recommend to show up to that. And then lastly, the end of year celebration, December 6th. So please go and sign up and fill out the feedback form tonight. Again, this will count towards the membership for your club. And after you fill that out, you'll be able to show that to the people outside and get pizza for the night. Thank you, everyone.